Very good evening and welcome to the Buddhist Mahavir's Facebook page. Um, we are here live this evening on our Buddhist Mahavir's Facebook page, and we are on the Dhammadana series. And today we are going to continue on the part two of our Bala Pandita Sutta, which our Bhante Vineetha Thera was talking to us last week. And we're going to conclude this evening with part two of Bala Pandita Sutta. I would now like to invite Bhante to come into the studio. Good evening, Bhante.
Good evening, Leslie and all the brothers and sisters.
For those of you, yes, for those of you who are not familiar with Bhante Pusala Vinita, let me quickly read his profile. Bhante Pusala Vinita was ordained as a young monk in Sri Lanka at the age, but a very young age, and in 2007. He's currently the resident bhikkhu at the Triratna Lumbini Park Garden in Puchong, and is also the principal of its Sunday Dhamma School. Bhante has a first class honors Bachelor's of Arts degree in English from the Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka. He has also just completed a Master's of Education teaching English as a second language from the Help University here in Malaysia. Bhante is currently lecturing at the Nagananda Institute of Buddhist Studies in Kelaniya, Sri Lanka. And this evening, Bhante will be talking on the Bala Pandita Sutta, which is on the Majjhima Nikaya 1 to 9, section 1 to 9. And this will be the second part when Bhante will be talking on the Pandita part, explaining the sutta in complete uh, for us to understand the whole sutta. Bhante, would you like to start this evening's sharing?
Namo tassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Very good evening to all brothers and sisters in Dhamma. Thank you so much for joining us tonight with sharing the Dhamma, and also I would like to start this talk letting you know the summary of the last talk as we continue the second part of it. Last week we discussed how a fool suffers a lot because of the immoral behavior or unwholesome practices in this life by the way of body, by the way of speech, and by the way of mind. When a fool behaves in an immoral manner, he or she has to suffer in this world before his or her death. After the death, Also, the person has to suffer a lot. When we think of the suffering in this life and in next lives, the Buddha says, when you have a small stone in your hands, the small stone is the smallest one or the smaller than the bigger stone in this world, the Himalaya, the king of the stones. So this life, when you suffer, that suffering just similar to the suffering, similar to the stone in your hand, the small stone. After the death, you need to suffer a lot. The rest of the suffering after the death is similar to the amount of the big stone, Himalaya. In this way, we concluded the first part. A fool has to suffer a lot. When a fool does something immoral, something impure, something unwholesome, something negative, by the way of body, by the way of speech, by the way of mind. So the fool's way of speaking, way of acting, and the way of thinking has to be changed. They have to be changed into a meritorious directions or good directions if they need to be free from suffering. When the societies talk about the 5 types of evil deeds, when the court, government, or any other authoritative people punish the other criminals, the a fool who does all those things imagine, if I also was caught, I have to go under these types of punishments. And also a fool who does the immoral things, he or she has to suffer internally wherever he lives. In this way, we talk about the 3 types of the sufferings as well in this life and what happened after the life. Today, the second part, it brings the details of the wise people who does or who do moral things, pure things, positive things, wholesome things. So we are talking about the positive sides of the last part. Last day we talked about fools. This day we talk about wise people, wise individuals. That is what the meaning of the term Bala Pandita Sutta, as I mentioned earlier. Bala Pandita, it's a one word and also a combination of 2 words. Bala is a separate word which denotes fools. Pandita is the separate word that indicates the meaning of a wise person. So all these two words are combined together as Bala Pandita, as Buddha wanted to talk about these two types of people and also compare, and also he needed to let the followers know how a fool suffers and how a wise person enjoys the life. I said the human world starts with the letter H. The hell starts with the letter H. The most important place that you want to go, the heaven, to enjoy the happiness, starts with the letter H. Heaven, human world, and hell. As a Buddhist, your target, your purpose, the objective of the practice of the Buddhism or Buddha's teachings is to attain Nibbana. So if you do the evil things, you will go to hell, the lower directions. There you have to suffer a lot, as we mentioned last day. If you do moral things, you will go to heaven, the upper directions, to enjoy the happiness. We are talking about that part today. At the end of this talk, I would like to conclude this session. When you do all those things, the good things, by heart, you will reside in the upper places, the heaven. But beyond that you can go, that is Nibbana. It starts with letter N, that means nothing. Nothing of reoccurrence, nothing of rebirth, nothing of happening. It is the highest place. When you practice the moral things, when you practice the pure things, wholesome deeds, positive things, you will reside in the heavens. But as a Buddhist, remember, your target, your purpose, objective of practice of Buddha's teaching should not be to reside in the heaven, but to attain the highest place, that is Nibbana. Nibbana means in English the letter N, that means nothing of reoccurrence, of rebirth. Reoccurrence of the rebirth. Reoccurrence of the birth, rebirth, or death, decay, old aging, sickness, depression, craving, anger, hatred, conceit, everything is not there. So nothing of them there. Nothing of reoccurrence of all those things there. So our target, our purpose of listening to this talk, remember, is not to attain or reborn in the heaven, but to attain the highest place. Not to attain a higher place, but to attain the highest place, that is Nibbana. So, let me conclude in this way and let me explain the second part today. Last week, as we talked about a fool, today we are going to learn how a wise person, how a wise individual can be recognized according to the teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha says in this discourse, if someone kayena sucharitan charanti, vachaya sucharitan charanti, manasaya sucharitan charanti. Brothers and sisters in Dhamma, if someone does practice something moral, vachaya sucharitan, by the way of speaking, and also if someone does something moral by the way of acting or body, if someone's thinking style is positive, if someone's thinking style is positive or meritorious, these are the three characteristics that you can easily understand a wise person. According to the Buddha, there are three characteristics to identify a wise person. What are those characteristics? Those are the things that I said. If someone's practices, behaviors, deeds are pure, if the deeds, if the practices, if the behaviors are immoral, if they are moral in the way they practice, maybe it can be speaking, it can be acting, the body, it can be thinking. So, three faculties. If someone uses their mouth to speak good words, pleasant words, truthful words, and the words that bring true happiness, their speaking style is good. And also if someone behave bodily in a good manner, their acting is pure. Their behavior is moral. And also if someone's thinking system, the mind, if the person uses the mind in a positive way to think, in a wholesome way, in a wholesome way, in a positive way, in a noble way. So that person's practices by the way of speaking, by the way of acting, or by the way of body, and by the way of thinking, all the practices can be pure, all the practices can be moral and wholesome. If someone consists of all those characteristics, these are the three characteristics to recognize a wise person. The Buddha said, a wise person, therefore, in conclusion, we have three characteristics. What are those characteristics? His speaking way should be rich. His acting way should be rich. His thinking way should be rich. In this sense, three doors is speaking, body, and the mind should practice something moral, something pure, something wholesome. When they are wholesome, when they are pure, when they are moral, his or her behaviors are rich in a good way. These are the three characteristics that you have in this society in order to look at a person and examine the person whether the person is a good or bad, a wise person. If their behaviors are moral, pure, and also wholesome by the way of speaking, by the way of body, by the way of thinking, that person definitely a good person, a wholesome person. In other words, we can say a noble person. This noble person in this life, brothers and sisters in Dhamma, attains happiness. This noble person attains happiness in this life. The happiness the person enjoys can be seen in three ways. His or her happiness are threefold. His or her happiness is threefold. That is also first suffering, second suffering, and third suffering. First suffering, second suffering, and third suffering. You can remember the last week we said. In the same manner, this wise person enjoys happiness, first happiness, second happiness, and third happiness. The person who does the evil thing suffers a lot in three ways. The three ways are first suffering, second suffering, third suffering. In the same manner, the person who does the wholesome thing enjoys the happiness, that is first happiness, second happiness, and third happiness. Already you know what are the three types of suffering of a fool. Now you need to know and get the knowledge or acquire the knowledge about the three types of happiness, enjoyments. You know the people in this world, some people abstain from 5 types of unwholesome things, 5 types of evil deeds. Some people abstain from doing all those 5 evil things. What are those 5 evil things? You know. I know you know. Brothers and sisters in Dhamma, the 5 things: killing the living beings or damaging the living beings, hurting the living beings, making injuries to the living beings. Panati pata veramani sikkapadam samadhiyami. In the 5 precepts, what you observe on full moon day and other normal days, The first thing, I do undertake to abstain from killing living beings, hurting the living beings. The second one, Adinna Dana Veramani Sikkapadan Samadhyami. I do undertake to abstain from what is not given. That means stealing. Kamesu Mityachara Veramani Sikkapadan Samadhyami. Some noble people absorb the meaning. I do undertake not to practice sexual misconduct, illegal sexual misconduct, immoral sexual conduct. Some people promise not to tell lies and say Musavada Veramani Sikkapadan Samadhyami. I do undertake not to tell lies, but to speak the truths only. Some people, the fifth one, the last one, they observe not to drink or take alcohol or intoxications. Suramere Majjupama Dattana Veramani Sikkapadan Samadhya. These five types of things are called five evil things. If someone does something from these five things, his or her behaviors are immoral. When the people practice not to do all those five things, his or her behavior should be moral, wholesome, pure, positive, or noble. When people, wherever, when you are in your school or working place, maybe on the ground, in a train, in a bus, on a flight, wherever you visit, people will talk in this society. Those people are very pure, they don't do anything of the five evil things. They practice moral life. That person is a good person. He doesn't practice these five evil things. So he is a noble person. We must associate that person. We need to respect that person. In this society, in this way, people will appreciate and people will talk about the qualities of a good person who does not practice five evil things. A wise person who listen to these things, imagine what they talk is correct. What they talk is correct. Maybe those five qualities do not exist in me. They do not reside in me. I don't have any of those five qualities. As people appreciate the people who practice these things and abstain from five evil things, those people are noble. If I have no such a quality, if I don't have such a quality, so I will try to cultivate those things in me. I will abstain from doing all those five types of evil things. And I also try to be a noble. In this way, a wise person will think, and what people talk around him or her, he will think about them deeply and try to stop all the evil things he practices and try to follow the five precepts and not to do evil things. When he thinks in this way, He becomes a wise person because of the appreciation arisen from the societies, arisen from the individuals about these noble qualities. He attain happiness in this life. If I have these qualities, I also would be appreciated. I also would be a noble person. In this way, having thought about this, he attained the happiness because of his changing of thinking style, not to practice all those things if I don't have such a thing. This thinking style, his happiness, listen to these things to change his behaviors into a meritorious directions, and when they settle on him, brothers and sisters in Dhamma, the happiness he has is called the first happiness. Is called the first happiness. Remember, this is different from what we talked about under first suffering last week. Secondly, in the same manner, brothers and sisters in Dhamma, a king, a ruler, a government, or court, when they catch a criminal, when they arrest a criminal, when they punish that criminal, maybe according to the present time, can put in jail for entire lifetime as a prisoner, and also sometimes they lash with a whip, they lash the person with whips. Sometimes the king will decaptivate the person's head, or cut the legs or two arms. In this way, with lot of suffering, a criminal can be affected with the punishment. A criminal can be given a punishment in this way. And the king or the court, maybe the governments will announce these punishments are given to this criminal because of this crime, maybe killing a person, human being, or any other life, or making some damages to a life, breaking the hands or legs of someone. Remember, in the sense of Malaysia, a tiger is a native animal to the country. When the tigers are killed, the Malaysian government punishes the criminal. The bean can be an animal also. According to the rules, it can be wrong in the country. So the government will announce, maybe in newspapers, maybe via social medias, Facebook, WhatsApp, YouTube, or televisions, radio channels, in whatsoever ways, in using the present technological advancements, the government will show how a criminal is punished. according to the rules, then a criminal suffers a lot. When a wise person looks at these punishments, he thinks, so I am so lucky because, like this criminal, I did not kill any life. I did not steal. I did not do sexual misconduct. I did not tell lies. I did not cheat the people in telling lies. I did not mislead. I did not take the alcohol or intoxications. So I did nothing of five evil things. This criminal suffers a lot having got a punishment because he did maybe two, one, or anything from these five evil things. But I did not do. So, kings or any other persons do not come to punish me because I did not do anything like that. In that way, having look at a criminal, how the person suffers a lot because of his crimes. A wise person enjoys happiness because he is not recommended to, he is not have such a great punishment, he is not appropriate to have such a punishment because his behaviors, his practices, his everything is good by the way of his speaking, by the way of body, by the way of thinking. Therefore, his everything is rich in the conduct of his speaking, acting, and thinking. So he is not a criminal. As he is not a criminal that deserves a great punishment by the king, he can be happy. He attained the second happiness in this life as he did nothing of crimes. Thirdly, brothers and sisters in Dhamma, when a wise person resides or lives or stays anywhere, maybe in the bed, maybe on a chair, maybe on the ground, anywhere, maybe in a train, wherever he goes, when he is free, he can think about his good ways of speaking, acting, and thinking. Speaking, acting, and thinking the good ways, good things, positive things, moral things practiced by the person. After that, he may think, I have not been a criminal. I enjoy a good life because, and also happiness I have. This happiness settles on me because of my good behaviors in my previous life. Some people are in this world, they suffer a lot because their mouth is not good. Their acting is not good. Their thinking style is not good. Hence, the person suffers a lot. I see physically and mentally, I see physically those people who are suffering, but I don't have such a suffering because I enjoy a happy life even now and also even in my previous life I did something better, something positive, something moral by using my mouth, by using my acting or body, by using my mind. So happiness settled on me because of this. And having thought in that way about the happiness he has, the person thinks, a wise person thinks, all these come to me because of my previous meritorious behaviors, and enjoy the third happiness in this life. You know how the people enjoy in this way. You know the shadow of biggest stone. The shadow of the biggest stone, when the sun rises, the shadow settles on the earth and covers a large area of ground. Anyone can stay without an umbrella or any other cover for head smoothly, beautifully and peacefully. And also you think of a big tree. When the sun rises, when the sun arises, the shadow of a big tree settles on the earth. The where the shadow settles on the earth, it can be a large area without a tree because of a tree, without a tree because of a shadow of a tree. The people who reside in those areas can have a shelter. In the same manner, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, when the wise person enjoy the previous meritorious powers in this life and thinks about them in that way, I did something good, I have done something positive by the way of speaking, by the way of acting and by the way of thinking. In that way, that is a small seed maybe, but it has grown like a big tree. Now it has a shadow. That means throughout his entire sansaric life, he can enjoy the happiness. Having thought about that happiness in this very life, that person thinks about the meritorious things and enjoy the happiness. In this way, in this life, the person who is known as a wise person enjoys the three types of happiness in this life. Three types of happiness in this life because he practiced something moral, something good, something better, pure, wholesome, or positive by the way of speaking, by the way of acting, and by the way of thinking. So, if you do the same thing, if you can abstain from doing the evil things and absorb the meaning of the five precepts at least and practice them, when you practice like that, I'm sure indeed you can enjoy these three types of happiness in this life. These three types of happiness for you to enjoy in this life. They are to enjoy in this life when you practice something moral. So I expect our brothers and sisters may practice this in this life and try to be a wise person instead of following naughty things or bad things, immoral things, or conducting misbehaviors like breaking the five precepts. When these are told to the monks, a monk questioned the Buddha, "Dear Blessed One, can you explain these things in an example? The happiness that you acquire, that you attain through your moral practices cannot be limited, but using an example, he clarified the happiness you attain in this life and in next life. Again, you imagine what I have told about suffering last week. The small stone and the biggest stone. In the Buddhist literature, the biggest stone in this world is known as the Himalaya Parvata, Himalaya stone, Himalaya Parvata in Sanskrit. Some say Himalaya in India. It's the biggest stone in this world. It has thousand acres of land. It has covered. Cannot measure the exact number of acres as it is the biggest. The Buddha takes a small stone into his hand and show and question the monks, what is the smallest one, what is the bigger one? The monks say, dear Blessed One, the small stone in your hand is the smallest. It's smaller. But the Himalaya Parvata is bigger than this. So it's the biggest. The Buddha says, the three types of happiness you attain in this life because of your practices, moral practices, moral behaviors, positive deeds, wholesome deeds you do in this life by the way of speaking, by the way of body, by the way of mind. Those three types are similar to this small stone in this my hand. So it can be very, very small happiness in this life when we compare the happiness you attain throughout your samsaric journey. The rest of the happiness that should settle on you because of your moral practices in this life, in next lives they will settle like the Himalaya Parvata. It is the biggest. You enjoy little thing only, but the more things to enjoy. The rest will settle on you. The rest of the happiness will settle on you after this life. The Buddha, having said like that, he says, as a lay person, as a laity, in this life, brothers and sisters in Dhamma, you have only one thing in this life called the highest happiness. That's attainment of the universal monarchy. You know a universal monarchy, Chakravarti Raja, who controls the whole the human world by a way of moral practice. Some say a wheel rolling king, a wheel rolling king. He is pure, virtuous, good because of his moral practices. He attains universal monarchy. This universal monarchy, the wheel rolling king, has lots of treasures. One is a wheel treasure. He sent this wheel treasure to different directions. When it goes to those directions, the kings, rulers, governments will come to him and say, "My dear Lord, please rule us. Please advise us how to rule our country. Now we are part of your kingdom, not as a separate kingdom. Now we are part of your kingdom." Then they become the subjects of the wheel rolling king. Then the wheel rolling king advises those kings and governments, countries, provinces. As you enjoy the province country, you may continue it, but you have to follow these rules and regulations. You have to rule your country according to the 5 precepts. So without a fight between two armies, a wheel rolling king can governs the whole world, and he governs in this way. He wins the other countries not because of his fighting, but because of his moral behaviors by the way of his speech, body and mind. So, enjoy the universal monarchy, life of a universal monarchy. Being a wheel rolling king is the highest happiness in this human world that the humans have as lay people, as the lay people. When you abstain from the 5 evil things and practice the 5 precepts, you can enjoy that universal monarchy in your next lives. Attainment of such a happiness is just similar to the present life happiness, similar to the small stone in the hand. After that, after the death, you would be born as a divine being in the heaven. Maybe you would be born as the Brahmas in the Brahma world. And the happiness that is true, the happiness that is going to settle on you after the death as a universal monarchy or after this life can be similar to the area or the biggest stone. Maybe you can be the king of the deities, King Sakka. You can be the king of the Brahma world. So the King Sakka's happiness, comfortable conditions are higher than conditions of the comparables of a universal monarchy. A universal monarchy or a real role in king does not have the comfortable conditions which can be similar to the comfortable conditions of a king of deity. After this life, you would be born as a king of deity, not as a universal monarchy. If you are born in this human world, the happiness you enjoy just limited like universal monarchies happiness, and the happiness that is going to settle on you after the death in next life is the biggest, like the biggest stone. So Buddha, having said like that, motivated you all brothers and sisters in Dhamma not to practice evil things, unwholesome things, by the way of speaking, by the way of acting and thinking. And he encouraged you, he motivated you, having shown the correct path, and he showed you how to live as a wise person in this life to enjoy happiness, and he explained the nature of the happiness in this life, and he expected you to follow the correct path and to be a wise person having followed all those things. That is your moral conduct, your behavior, your conducts, your practices should be moral, pure, wholesome, and positive by the way of speaking, by the way of acting or bodily actions and thinking system. Then you can be a wise person. Definitely, you would enjoy the three types of happiness in this life, and you would enjoy the happiness of a universal monarchy or wheel rolling king. Then, after the death, maybe you can enjoy even the heavens, the rest of the happiness after the death that is to settle on you is the biggest, it is just like the biggest stone. So cannot move, cannot go away. Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters in Dhamma, try to be a wise person according to the Bala Pandita Sutta, and you may clean your mouth, you may clean your acting, you may clean your thinking system, and enjoy this life in a noble way. In a noble way. This is how we enjoy life in a noble way. Then automatically you will be a wise person. Thank you so much. If any question is raised here to ask, I would be very happy to answer for you.
Thank you, Bhante. Uh, I, I think today we noticed that because you're talking about the Pandita part, which is all the good elements of being a person, good person, we only have about 25 to 27 listeners or viewers. But last week, when you spoke about the bad part, which was about Bala, we had about 60 viewers or listeners. So I think uh, most of our viewers prefer the bad part as opposed to the good part. But anyway, there's one question that there's posed by in the questionnaire. Let me just post that question.
Of their faculty senses, they are still considered to be a foolish person. What about the people who indulge? Yes, if they know whatever they do, as mentioned here, as bad, but they don't stop, they continue having a knowledge Having known what they are doing is wrong, but they do. But nothing to say if they do, having known what they do as wrong, if they cannot stop, they are definitely a fool. They are fool. May Bhante Vineetha always be in good health and conditions to preach the Buddha Dhamma for a long time more to come to guide humanity in attaining Nirvana. Thank you so much, David T. Ping, for your great wishes, and I also share the same wishes with you. May you be able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana.
Bante, so I think Brother David's comment is the last comment that we have.
Hmm.
Uh, can we don't there are no other questions tonight? Can we then
Hmm.
move on to the Anumodana, Bante?
Can. So, by the power of these merits, especially the sponsors who supported this talk, may they be well and happy. May they be free from suffering. May all the people in Buddhist Mahavihara, including our Mr. President Sirisena Pereira and Mr. Secretary, our brother Leslie, and other management members, and especially our Chief Reverend Datuk K.C. Dhammaratana and the respective Mahasangha, may all they be free from suffering, may they be able to attain supreme bliss of Nibbana. May all the Malaysians, my brothers and sisters, and may all the Sri Lankans, may all the humans and non-humans around the world be free from uh, these types of suffering, and also may they free from COVID-19. May all the pandemic go away from the world, and may the departed ones also receive these merits. May the deities also receive these merits. May all of us, including the departed ones, living beings, and deities, be able to attain supreme bliss of Nibbana. In thinking is in this manner, I extend my great wishes towards you to have the best health, long life, success, and happiness in this life by reciting blessing verses. Akasanta ca Bhummatta Devanaga Mahindika Punyantang Anumoditva Chiran Rakkantu Loka Sasanang Akasanta ca Bhummatta Devanaga Mahindika Punyantang anumoditva chiran rakkantu desanam akasattha ca bhummatta devanaga mahindika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakkantu mam paranti අභිවාදන සීලිස්ස නිච්ඡං වොද්ධාපචායිනෝ චත්තාරෝ ධම්මා වඩ්ඩಂತಿ ආයුවන්නෝ සුඛං බලං ආයුරාෝග්‍ය සම්පatti සග්ග සම්පatti මේවච අතෝ නිම්බාන සම්පatti ඉමිනාතේ සමිඤ්ඤතු සුඛී හෝතු good night.
Thank you, Bante. On behalf of the Committee of Management and also the monks of the Buddhist Mahavihara, let me take this opportunity to thank you for taking time off from your busy schedule to be with us this evening to conclude the second part of the Bala Pandita Sutta, talking about Pandita. And now that we have completed the sutta, I hope the members of the public and our viewership has understood this sutta. And but if you do have any questions, please do post it to us on our Facebook page, I'm sure Bante will be happy to answer your questions or queries. On the same note, let me take this opportunity to thank our sponsors this evening, and also to all our viewers and listeners who have been following us very patiently over the past couple of months, and especially Bante Vineetha, who has been instrumental in finding speakers for us over the last couple of months, to be able to continue this program every Friday and every Sunday. We'll take this opportunity to thank Bante for your efforts, Bante, and your connections that you have, and that's very useful for us. And to all our viewers, I'm sure they appreciate this, and we look forward to many more sharings with you in the future. With that, let me take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you, and have a pleasant evening, and sadhu and sukhi
Thank
hoti.
you so much. Thank you.